Welcome back. In this session, you will learn about different data types in Python. There are 4 data types in Python, such as string, integer, float, and boolean. When I talk about string is like a character or a text or word. For example, Kenya, male, coronavirus, female, and so on. And whenever you have a string data type in Python, you have to put a quotation sign there. For example, this is quotation. So when we quoted this, the beginning of the quote and after the word, then we end the quote. So for example, here we have this one as Kenya in quotation. For the male, we also have it in quotation. For coronavirus, we have it in quotation. We also have another example. For example, you can say America, for example. You have to put it in quotation. And this quotation can be a double quotation or a single quotation. And that one makes it a string data type in Python. We also have another data type called an integer. An integer is a number without any decimal places. So e.g. -1, 0, 9, 8, 16, 71, and so on. So Python see integer and it gives it as int. So the int is a short notation for an integer in Python. Remember, integer is a number without any decimal places. So Python also have another data type called a float. A float is a number with decimal places. For example, 3.142, -1.6, 4.9, 16.5, and so on. So any number with decimal places is called a float in Python. There is another data type called boolean. This is when you have something like either true or false, then that data type is called a boolean. For example, are you a male? If you are a girl, then you are not a male, so the answer will be false. And if you are a boy, you are a male, the answer will be true. So this data type is called a boolean. And this is how boolean is written in Python. It is called bool, B-O-O-L, bool for short. So if you look at this true or false here, you will see that the beginning of the word is capital T, while the remaining letters are small letters. Also, for the false, the beginning is capital F, while the rest are in small letter. And that is how to know boolean in Python. Here is a graphical summary of different data types in Python. For example, we have number. So it can be an integer and it can be a float. And if it's an integer, then that number will be a whole number. For example, 1, 2, 17, 100, -7, and so on. And if that number is in decimal places, then the data type for that number will become a float. And you have a text. For example, hello Python, Sudan, Somalia, Nigeria, Rwanda, and so on. And in quotation, then that data type is called a string. As you can see here, hello Python. Hello Python is in quotation, that is in double quotation, and that is why it is called a string in Python. And boolean can either be true or false, and see how Python how true is written in Python, that is capital letter T and others in small letter. The same thing with false. False, capital F, others in small letter, and Python see this as boolean. You may want to know how to check for this data type in Python. Python makes use of a function called type. So this function type, okay, will identify any data type, be it an integer, a float, a string, or a bool. As you know, int is the notation for an integer, while float still remain the same. But for character or a text, then Python will see it as str, which signify a string. And for boolean, which can either be true or false, Python see it as bool, B-O-O-L. Follow me to the lab session. So in this case, I'm going to open my Jupyter lab notebook by typing anaconda prompt. I want to use terminal, so I will go to anaconda prompt. Then I wait for terminal to come out. Now my terminal is up now. Then I can now type Jupyter lab. Then I enter it. So I wait for it, my browser to come up. Now as you can see, my browser is up now. Since all of you will have access to this Python script and code, so what you just do is that you will go to this folder with your Jupyter lab, look for the Python data type here. So open it by double clicking on it. So I can close this one and make this one, minimize this so that you can see what I'm saying clearly. So now I have the script. So this script is what you will follow with. As I said before, there are 4 different data types in Python. The first one may be an integer. So for example, 1 is an integer. And to get the class of this data type, so you will just use a function called type. So I just say type and then I close the bracket and I run it. So in this case, Python is identifying 1 as an integer. So let's see another example. So I use the function type and I type maybe 19 there. So when I run it now, Python sees as integer. Okay, one more example. Let's see what is the type of this minus 71. The type of minus 71 is also an integer because this number does not have any decimal places. Okay, let's go to the float data type. Float is a number with decimal places. So for example, let's see the type of number minus 2.6. When you run this one here, you will see that minus 2.6 is a float data type. Let's see another one. Type and then say, let's say 56.9. This is also a float data type. Let's see one more example. Type minus 71.2. Minus 71.2. So when you run this one too is a float data type. Alright, great. So let's move to another data type called string. A string is a data type in Python, and you identify a string by double quotation and you put a text or a word to it. So for example, let's say that I want to check for the type of hello Python. You see, I have a quotation, then I type hello Python. So if I run this, Python will see it as a string. Reason is that this is a text, okay, hello Python, and I also put it in quotation. Let's say I don't put it in quotation and let's see what Python will return. So just say hello world, alright, or let's say hello Python, so that we have the same example as above. So if I run this, Python will throw an error saying invalid syntax because this is a string data type, and for every string data type, I must put it in double quotation or a single quotation. So therefore, I need to correct my error by putting the double quotation on it. So if I run it now, I will have the same example with what I have here, the same results with what I have here. Okay, let's see another example. Let's see the type of I am an Uganda. So if I look at this one now, if you look at this one, I am an Uganda. So if I put quotation there and you run this, so Python will say this is a string data type because this is text, as you can see, it's a text, and I put it in quotation. All right, let's say, let me check for the type of I love to come to Nigeria. I love, don't forget, for every string data type, you must put it in quotation. Say, I love to come to Nigeria. I love to come to Nigeria. All right, if you run this one now, so Python is saying that this is a string data type. Okay, what makes it a string data type is that number one, it is a text. Two, you also put it in quotation. The last example that I would like you to look into is, let's say, type I love Python programming. I love Python programming. I love Python programming. So if you run it now, so Python is seeing it as a string data type. Okay, let's move to another data type. Before we move to another data type, some Pythonistas, that is, people that use Python very well, they always use a function called print. And in the print, they put the text there as a string data type. So if you use this one now, for example, hello, I'm from Ethiopia and I can speak Amharic. So if I run this one here, okay, it runs this for me. And let's say I don't want to use this print. I can actually do the same thing by putting it in a quotation. The same word, hello, the same sentence, hello, I am from Ethiopia. I'm from Ethiopia and I can speak Amharic. Amharic. So if you run it now, you see I have the same thing. So the difference between the two is that print, we print it in a good format. That is, there will not be any quotation in the results. Why, if I don't use print, I will still have something like quotation. So it's still fine. It goes well. Okay. The last data type that I would like to talk about is Boolean data type. Remember that Boolean data type has two values. So it can either be true or false. For example, when you use type and say true, so Python will return it as bool. Okay, and when the other one for Boolean is false, so you see type false, and Python will return it as bool because it's a Boolean data type. Also, some operations can also result into a Boolean data type. For example, you can just say type to check for the data type. You know that 5 is greater than 2. So let's say 5 greater than 2. So Python will return true because 5 is greater than 2, as you can see. Python is saying bool because the result is true. So let's see how it is. 5 greater than 2. The result is true. And since true is a boolean data type, that is why type 5 greater than 2 is returning bool. That is a boolean. Let's see another example that will result into false. For example, you know that 2 is less than 5. 2 is less than 5. The answer is true. Okay, let's see the one that will really result to false. 5 is less than 2. As you know, 5 is not less than 2. So let's see the result of this. Now, the result of this is false because 5 is not less than 2. That is why this one is saying that 5 less than 2 is false. And to check for data type here, so you can just say type 5 less than 2. And the answer will be just bool because initially the result of this one is false and the data type of false is bool. That is why we have this as boolean. I hope you enjoyed this class. Let's revise what we are able to learn in this class. In the last session, we understand that we have different data types in Python. For example, an integer, a float, a string, and a boolean. So an integer is a number without decimal places, while a float is a number with decimal places. And for a string data type, so it's full of text and we always put it under quotation. And for boolean, boolean has two values. It can be true, it can be false. And to check for the type of data type in Python, we use the function type, which will return the type of data type the data is. Welcome back. In this session, you'll be learning about variable assignment in Python. What is a variable? A variable is a way at which you store a value so that it can be used over and over again without having to repeat yourself. For example, you are 15 years old now. If I ask you, how old will you be in the next year? Your answer will be, you're old now plus 1. Imagine you have used age as your variable and you store the value of 15 into it. So therefore, your age now is 15. That is, age is equal to 15. So if I ask you, how old will you be next year? So what you will do is that you just type age plus 1 and Python will return 16 for you. So when you are declaring a variable in Python, you will always make use of this equality sign, which we call assignment operator. So this assignment operator helps you to store a value into a variable. For example, age is a variable while 15 is a value. In the last section, we talk about different data types in Python. For example, integer, float, string, and boolean data type. So this one here, as you can see, we have a variable called country, and in it we store the value Kenya into it. So therefore, country is a variable and Kenya is a value. So when you print this variable, Python will print out this value out, which is Kenya. Remember, this Kenya here is in quotation and that makes it a string data type. While 15 is an integer, okay, and we store it into age. And as I said before, This equality sign here is what is called assignment operator. Let's go to the lab session. So I already have my JupyterLab notebook launched on my browser. So what I will do is that I will look for the script called variable assignment. So this is variable assignment script. So when you are following along, it's either you open a new script or you launch this one so that you can follow along with me. I'm going to minimize this so that the screen is wide and you can see it clearly. Okay, we have talked about this. Age is a variable and we store the value of 15 into it. Then we use the print function to print it out. So let's do it in a Python cell. So I have age as 15. So if I run it now, so you see, you are expecting 15 to come out. So what variable helps us to do is that it helps us to store our value. So therefore, it has stored the value of 15 in it. And to be able to access that value, you have to call the name of the variable, which is age. And that is the main reason why I'm using this print function to print it out. So if I say print age, don't forget print is a function and every function must have a parenthesis. So you open the parenthesis and you close it. So in this case, I have the value as 15. And if you don't want to use the print function, you can actually use the variable name. For example, here I have age. So when I run it now, I have the same result as with this. So you may want to check for the data type that is stored in this variable age. In the last class, we've talked about different data types in Python, and we know how to use a function called type to check for that data type. So in this case, I will use type age. So then this will return an integer because variable age is an integer data type and the value that we store in it is 15. Okay, let's see another example. So I want to create a new cell. I just say, let me say COVID-19, for example. COVID-19. COVID-19 is equal to, let's say the COVID-19, let's Google it. COVID-19 in Somalia. COVID-19 cases, COVID-19 cases in Somalia, for example. Let's check for the value. COVID-19 in Somalia. All right, my internet is not, okay, I've not connected my computer to the internet. Okay, let's just say COVID-19 in Somalia is 75, for example. So if you run it now, okay, then to get the value of the that we store into this variable COVID-19, so we have to call that variable out. And in this case, I will just say COVID-19. So if you run it now, okay, it's saying, as you can see, name COVID-19 is not defined because this is what I have as my variable name and see what I'm checking out. So I have to correct my error. So look at it, COVID-19, COVID-19, and then if I run it now, so it's bringing 75, which is the value that I store in it. So another example here is we are saving or storing the value of Kenya into country. So in this case, I just run it, Kenya. And don't forget, this is string data type because it's a text and I also put in quotation. So when I just say print country, so it will give me the value of the variable. And if I want to check the kind of data type that this country is, so I just say type country and I have it as string. As you know, this is string data type. Another example is smile. So I have smile and I put it as true. Okay, so if I run it now, it runs. So let's see that I want to create a new cell and I want to check the data type. Who can remind me? Smile, what kind of data type is this? Is it a boolean or a string or an integer or a float? What is it? Adili? It's a boolean. Yes, boolean. So just let's check it. I just use type, then put the variable name there, smile. Great. Adili, you are correct. This is a boolean data type because of this true. Okay, let me have another example. Let's say the same smile, we call it smiling, for example. Smiling is equal to, and therefore we put it in quotation. So in this example, we put smiling in quotation and I run it. So who want to tell me what is data type for smiling? Boolean? No, it's not Boolean. As you can see, we put it in quotation. So what Python we see it is string because a string is always in quotation, a text in quotation. So let's see it. So create a new cell and type smiling. Now this is string. As you can see, this one true is different from this one, and the difference between them is that this one is in quotation and that makes it a string, while this one is a boolean, and that is why Python is returning bool for it. Let's see another example. So I want to store the value of 15 into this variable age. Then I want to see the value. That's why I put age here. So I can run it together. And now Python is returning 15 for me because that is what I store in it. So now another calculation is that what is age plus 1? So before, age is 15 and when we are adding 1 to it, okay, the answer will be 16. So when I run it now, I see it as 16. So another example is I'm subtracting 2 from age. Remember, age is 15. So 15 minus 2, the answer is what? 13. And let's run it. 13. All right, great. So that your value of age will still remain the same. So if I say what is age now, just type age and you see it's 15. Okay, great. So this is another example. We have x as 2, y as 3, and z as 14. So when you run it now, okay, Python has saved this value into the respective variable name. Okay, so what is x plus y? Remember, x is 2, y is 3, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So you can just be using those variable name to perform those calculations. So x plus y, that is 5. What is z minus x minus y? That is minus 1. What is x times z? That is 8. What is this? Adili? Okay. X times 2. No, no, no. Abdullah, what is it? X raised to power 2. Yes, x raised to power 2. So you just run it and that is 4 because here we have stored the value of 2 into x and here we are not saying what is 2 raised to power 2 and the answer is 4. Okay, who want to tell me what is this operation? Can you remember it? Division. No, this is not division. So you want to tell me? Okay, modulus. Yeah, great, it's modulus. So this is modulus sign. Okay, and what this one is doing is that when you divide z by y, what is the remainder? So let's see, the remainder is 1. And in the previous class, we also used a function called diff mode, which will return the quotient and what? Remainder. Yeah, you get it. So now we do like this one. Now what is x and Z. 2. So remember, our Z is 4 and our X is 2. When you divide 4 by 2, the answer is 2. So what is the remainder? Nothing. That is why this one is saying 2, 0. That is, the quotient is 2 and the remainder is 0. Python has a way at which you can store different values into different variables within a line of code. So for example, here we have 4 different variables: name, age, gender, and country. And out of which we store the value of Jamal into name and the age into this age, and male into gender, then Sudan into country. Let me say it again. So we have 4 different variables: name, age, gender, and country. And we store all this value into each of the variables. For example, Jamal is stored into name, 16 is stored into age, and male is stored into a variable gender, and Sudan is stored into a variable country. So then I can print each of these variable names one by one. So in this case, I'm using print. And don't forget, you may also not use print and you still get the same answer. So let's see. When I run it now, uh, name is not defined. What is it? Let's run it again. This will run, and then this. Yeah, we get the same answer now. So when you get an error in Python, don't be afraid. So just read the error statement and then correct yourself. That's how to do in Python. So let's see other way at which you can do this. You can actually do this one by one. For example, say name is equal to Jamal. Name is equal to Jamal, okay, and then age is equal to 16. Jamal is 16 years old, okay. Jamal is 16 years old. Then gender is equal to male. Jamal is a male. And then country is equal to Sudan. Jamal is from Sudan. Jamal is from Sudan. Don't forget, Sudan is a string data type. So therefore, we have to put it in quotation. So when I run this one now, as you can see, it runs. So therefore, I can now print each of these variable name. Okay. So when you do it in this way, as you can see, what is it? Gender, and what is the last one? Country. Python will only print name for you, as you can see. Python only print the country, the last one, Sudan. But if you use print in each of the variable, okay, so Python will now print each of them one by one. So print, as you can see, print, so that you can see it clearly. I'm putting a line so that you can see it clearly. Then I have print as well. I have print for gender. I have print for gender. Then I have print for country. So if I run this one now, okay, then it prints those variable name one by one. All right, I can actually do it with one cell. Okay, so print each of them in different cells. So for example, I can just say name. As you can see, the answer has come out. Then I create a new cell. Let's say age. All right. Then another cell. Let's say the gender of Jamal. That is male. And then country. So if I do that, I don't need to include print. But if I'm using all the variables in one cell, then I have to include print so that it can print each and every one of the variables. Now that you have understood how to store a value into a variable, the other thing you need to know is that variable naming has a convention. That is, Python has a convention for naming a variable. So the first rule that you must be aware of is that all variable must begin with a letter of the alphabet. That is, a variable name must begin with a letter of the alphabet. We have alphabet from A to Z. So after you have begun with a letter, then a variable name can also contain underscore or a number. So what you are saying is that, let's say the variable name is COVID. So you started with C, okay, and you also write other letters like COVID. So what we are saying here is that you can also include the number into that variable name. So in this case, I'm saying COVID-19. COVID are letters and 19 is a number, okay, or you say C19. So the initial letter in COVID is C. Then I'm including a number there, 19. So I'm saying C19. So that one also is allowed as a variable name. So when you are declaring a variable name, you need to be very careful of one thing, which is this. So we are saying that there should not be any space or special characters in variable name. For example, you cannot say COVID space and 19. No, that will throw an error. I will show you an example after I explain different variable naming convention. Remember, there should not be any space. There should not be any special character like question mark, like uh, exclamation mark, like different like and symbol or hashtag. There should never be any of that. They are called special characters in Python. So don't include them when you are naming a variable. The last thing that you must be aware of is that Python is case sensitive, which means upper characters are different from lower characters. So let's see different example of acceptable variable names in Python. If you look at this one here, this is a variable name called grade text, that is grade underscore text. If you look at all the rules here, you will notice that this variable name follows all the convention. Number one, all variable must begin with the letter of the alphabet. So this begins with G, which is an alphabet. And we are saying that after the initial letter, variable name can also contain underscore or a number. So that is if you want it. So in this case, you see, because I want an underscore to be there, so I included it. No spaces or special characters are allowed. You see here, there is no space in the variable name. But if you look at the other one here, test grade, you will see that we have a parenthesis here, which is a special character in Python. And that is why this one will throw an error if we store a value into it. See this one as well, COVID-19 cases. This is a good variable name. It follows all these variable convention. But this one here does not follow variable convention. For example, as you can see, there is an hyphen here. An hyphen is a special character. Another hyphen here, which is not allowed in Python as a variable name. So let's see the third example. Term2 is a good variable name. It follows this naming convention. But here, two term, you see, number starts this variable name. And as we said that number should not begin a variable name. Okay, a variable must begin with a letter and not a number. So in this case, this one here is not allowed. And also this one has a space. As you can see, there's a space between to and term. So this is space. Therefore, this is not following the variable convention. So another example that I have here is sales price 2021. This is a very good variable name. It follows all these variable convention. How do you know this by heart? Okay, by practice, you are going to know it, and then you are going to know them by heart. First of all variable must begin with a letter of the alphabet. After the initial letter, you can include an underscore or a number with a variable name. And also, a variable must not have a space, and there should not be any special character. You should also know that Python is case sensitive. Capital letter A is different from small letter a, so know it by heart. This one, the last example here, Sudan students. You will see that Sudan is separated by this underscore, which is allowed. As you can see, can also contain underscore. But in this one here, which is not acceptable, what make this one not acceptable? Who want to tell me? Jamal, are you there? Do you want to tell me why this is not acceptable? Oh, because it has an ampersand, which is called and. Okay, it's a special character, and that is why this is not allowed. Okay, so we will see different example now, so that when you get an error, then you will correct yourself that that is not a good variable name. One more thing you need to know is that you must use a meaningful variable name. In my own examples here, as you can see, all my examples here, they are meaningful. For example, greatest. It can be your greatest in this Python class. This one here, COVID-19 cases. As you know, we are in the period of pandemic, COVID-19, term 2, maybe your second term exam. Okay, the sales price. Let's say you are a sales marketer and your sales for year 2021, you know it, and you can actually put it as a value here. And let's say I want to know the number of Sudan students that are taking my class. So in that case, I can just say Sudan students is equal to 17, for example. So let me show you different examples. So I want to create different cells. Okay. And let me say, let's say greatest, for example. Greatest is equal to, let's say, Jamal score 19 in this class. Okay. You can see there is no error. And I can look for the value in that variable by calling the variable name. So you see 19. So if I use this, let me just show you what will happen when I use this. Test grade, okay, is equal to 19. So if I run this one now, as you can see, Python is throwing an error, cannot assign to function call. You see, because of this special character. So that's just it. So let's see one more other example. I want to make a mistake here, and you tell me why this is throwing an error. Let's say COVID-19 for today in Ethiopia is 5. So if you run this one now, this is throwing an error. So you want to tell me why I'm having an error here based on all our conventions for naming a variable here. Want to tell me? Okay, what? Alright, because a space is happening here. Yeah, exactly. There's a space here. A space between COVID and 19. So to correct this error, what will I do? Okay, I need to remove this space. Yeah. So if I remove this space, then I run, as you can see, no error. Then I can check the value that is stored in this variable name COVID-19, and then I have 5 as the result. Okay, great. I hope you are getting it now. You will notice that we have been using different functions since we started this class. For example, we use a print function, we use a float function, we use type function, and many other functions. So you may want to check for the documentation of those functions so that you know more about them and you know it offhand. So to check for the help of a particular function, you will use this question mark, and then the function name. Remember, every function always have a parenthesis. But when you are checking for the documentation or for the help of a particular function, you will not include this parenthesis. So I'm going to remove this parenthesis and then I run it. So as you can see, this is the help function. This is the help description of this print. So you can now read it like this. This print function prints the values to a string. So that is, it prints the value of an object that you put into it. So for example, you can just say, let me do this one here. Let's say print, you see print 7. So it prints the value of 7 out, or just say x is equal to 7, for example, and then let's see print. So print x, because we have stored the value of 7 into x. So when I say print x, then I have this as my value. So what print function does is to print the value out. That is why it says print the value to a string. So let's see another example. So we've talked about float, that is float data type. So this float is a function in Python. Okay, so we will refer back to it when we see how to convert from one data type to another. But for now, let's see what this float function does. So as I said before, if you want to check for the help of a particular function, okay, you are going to use this question mark. So for example, I just say I run it now. Okay, as you can see, it converts a string or number to a floating point number if possible. So what this float does is that it converts any object, be it a string or a number, to a floating point data type. That is what it does. So imagine that you still want to get what int function does. So what we do is that you can put a question mark before that function, okay, and you run it. But let's say that you include a parenthesis to it. For example, int is a function in Python. So since every function must have a parenthesis, so if you put parenthesis here and you run it, see what happens. Object int not found. That is why I said that when you are checking for the help of a particular function, don't include parentheses in it. So if I remove this parenthesis now and I run it, so I get my documentation of this function. So that is how to do that. The same thing with print. If you run it, it will tell you object print not found. So therefore, you need to remove this parenthesis and you run it. You can also check for the help file or documentation of a particular function by using help function. So this is help. Okay, let's say help, and then inside it, I want to check what print does. So I run it. As you can see, it's still the same thing. Print the value to a string. And when you use the shortcut, print, okay, you still have the same thing. As you can see, print the value to a string, and this one too, print the value to a string. So let us revise what we are able to learn in this class. So in this class, we learn how to assign values to a variable, and we know that variable helps us to store a value into computer's memory, and variable is reusable. And the equality operator here is what is called assignment operator in Python. Thank you for watching. We have come to the end of this class. Bye.